Kamina Johnson-Smith explains why the majority of Jamaicans will never own an NHT house in their lifetime. Listen to the plans for NHT over the next 5 years.
Mr. President, today it is intended to take the bill shortly entitled the National Housing Trust Amendment Special Provisions Act 2026 through its second reading and its concluding stages. Mr. President, the bill seeks to amend the National Housing Trust Act to allow for the continuation of the annual special distribution from the National Housing Trust to central government over the 5-year fiscal period starting 26-27, our current fiscal year, through to 2031. Mr. President, as you may be aware, earlier this year, in February, in fact, the government announced its intention to continue with the annual transfers from the National Housing Trust to central government as part of revised revenue measures. As we debate this bill, Mr. President, to ensure the operationalization of this measure, I want to just start by recalling two very important points. The first being that strategic reallocations of financial resources are necessary from time to time by government. In pursuance of crucial national objectives, a strategic reallocation of financial resources is an appropriate step for which there is significant precedence. In fact, Mr. President, interesting historical fact is that the NHT itself was initially capitalized through allocations from the National Insurance Scheme through an amendment to the National Insurance Act of 1976.
Dr. Professor Senator Floyd Morris, I beg you correct. Kamina Johnson-Smith, for me, please.
We are reducing the Senate to a circus. Mr. President, I was saying earlier that the statement made by the minister was incorrect about the NIS and the funding for the NHT. It is blatantly incorrect, and I've heard it before. And it is a deliberate attempt to try and distort history, because NHT is undoubtedly one of the most consequential social institutions in Jamaica.
Mr. President, budgeting absolutely cannot be business as usual, and all revenue sources available to the government must be on the table given the criticality of this time. Given the significant fiscal pressures in these unprecedented times, the government has therefore decided to extend the NHT drawdown for the next 5 fiscal years. If you will permit me, Mr. President, I'll do a brief clause-by-clause presentation. Mr. President, the bill comprises 3 clauses which make provisions as follows. Clause 1 sets out the short title and construction of the bill, which is cited as the National Housing Trust Amendment Special Provisions Act 2026, and that it must be read and construed as one with the National Housing Trust Act and all amendments thereto. Clause 2 seeks to amend Section 4 of the National Housing Trust Act to allow the NHT to provide financing of up to a maximum annual amount of $11.4 billion for fiscal consolidation in respect of each of the financial years ending respectively on the 31st of March 2027, the 31st of March 2028, 31st of March 2029, 31st of March 2030, and the 31st of March 2031. This clause, Mr. President, also provides that financing in respect of the above may be by way of distribution, grant, or otherwise, as the minister responsible for finance may determine. Clause 3, Mr. President, outlines the duration of the Act, providing that it will continue into force until March 31, 2031, and will then expire. Mr. President, in the circumstances which I have explained to this House, I very much look forward to the due consideration and support of this very important bill by both sides. I thank you, Mr. President.
We are reducing the Senate to a circus.
So Jamaicans, you continue paying your NHT dues, yet many of you still cannot afford to own a home. At some point, you have to be honest with yourselves. Under this system, many hardworking people are being pushed into renting for the rest of their lives. Are you committed to being a lifetime renter?